because they control the minds of the masses, said Malcolm X, the African-American minister and human rights activist. A very warm good morning, respected dignitaries, valued guests, most respected chairs on the virtual dais, intellectuals, faculties, professors, participants, and attendees from all over the world. Greetings to one and all. We have all gathered here today to kickstart the 12th International Seminar on Changing Dimensions of Media Law, hosted by Kerala Law Academy Law College in association with Center for Advanced Legal Studies and Research and IQAC KLA. Myself, Arpita Prasoon, along with my co-anchor Tulika Suresh, will be the student moderators for the session. And we take the privilege to welcome each and everyone present virtually.
Thank you, Arpita. To welcome means to establish integrity. It is a moment of great privilege and honor for me to extend a hearty welcome to everyone present on this virtual dais. The Kerala Law Academy is a center for legal studies, legal research, and law reforms. Founded in 1966, it is a first and was for many years the only private law institution in the state. Academy has never failed to prove its eminence and merit in various arenas in the field of legal education. To keep up with the legacy, the Kerala Law Academy, in association with Center for Advanced Legal Studies and Research and IQAC KLA, is organizing this 12th International Seminar.
Before we kickstart the session, I take this opportunity to remember late Dr.N.Narayanan, former director, Kerala Law Academy, the torchbearer and the backbone of our institution.
Thank you all. We have a promo video on the concept of the 12th International Seminar and the legacy of Kerala Law Academy Law College. Thank you, everyone. Media holds a very significant role in all democratic regimes. Media actors influence the way social and political events are seen and evaluated. Free and clear media is a safeguard of a healthy democracy. Media has critical functions in a democratic regime. Journalism also serves functions such as giving information, making investigation, and providing society a public forum.
Justification for having laws that affect the most private aspects of our life is to ensure protection of individual rights and to uphold certain norms that are essential to human dignity. This seminar will attempt to explore the different aspects of media law as it plays a crucial role in day-to-day life. However, with the onset of globalization and privatization, the situation has undergone a humongous change. In such an era of media upsurge, it becomes an absolute necessity to impose certain legal checks and bounds on transmission and communication.
Leaders instill in their for success and a belief in themselves. Positive leaders empower people to accomplish their goals. This saying is true in all senses for us. I would like to invite a man who does not need any introduction and is among us for his wisdom and knowledge, our Honorable Director, Advocate Dr.N.Narayanan, Sir, Member, Bar Council of Kerala, to officially welcome our guest into this inaugural session. Sir, please.
Thank you, Tulika, for inviting me. Respected members and dignitaries on the virtual dais and off the virtual dais, your faculty members, students, friends, brothers and sisters. Now, this is the 12th virtual international seminar. conducted by the Kerala Law Academy, Law College, in association with the Center for Advanced Legal Studies and Research and IQAC, in the Internal Quality Assurance Cell of Kerala Law Academy. And the topic, as you all know, is changing dimensions of media law. I hope I could be heard, right? I'm audible, isn't it?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. You're audible.
Changing dimensions of media law. Now, it's my duty, pleasure, and privilege to welcome the dignitaries on and off the dais. Or maybe one or two words on media law. Maybe now media, you all know, media is now, has always been the fourth estate. From a highly regulatory system, now we have a more freedom and lesser regulation for media. And also there are talks, debates, discussions going on to bring more regulation for media. And of course, we know of the advantages of media and also of the abuses and misuses, abuses and excesses of media. Especially, you know about media trial, where the media persons act as judges and decide on many important criminal they act as judges even before the trial takes place. And this is one such issue. And these are several issues are there. But of course, the advantages of media are too many, as most of the public interest which we want to protect are protected, are in fact are protected and being espoused by the leaders in the media. Of course, the entire seminar will be on the changing dimensions and contours and parameters and the various reasonableness, freedom to be enjoyed by the media, and also the reasonable restrictions that are imposed on them. Wishing all success for the seminar, and with the hope that something fruitful will come out of this seminar, I now proceed on to my duty to welcome the dignitaries. So first, let me welcome the president of today's function, who is Dr. N.K. Jaykumar, who is a member of the executive committee of the Kerala Law Academy and part of the management of Kerala Law Academy, and who was there with the Law Academy right from its inception in 1966. Sir was Dr. N.K. Jaykumar, sir was the former head and dean of Faculty of Law of University of Kerala. He was a professor in the Faculty of Law, University of Kerala, before being a professor in the Kerala Law Academy. Then he was the former chief legal advisor to the Chief Minister of Kerala. And he has also been the former Vice Chancellor of the National University of Advanced Legal Studies, Nuals, Kochi. He is a very important jurist. He has published several research articles on current issues and published several books, 11 or 12 books he has published. He is a visiting professor of several universities in India and abroad. And on behalf of all those present here and on behalf of the Kerala Law Academy, Center for Advanced Legal Studies and IQAC, I extend to Jaykumar sir a very warm welcome to this function. Welcome, sir. Next, it's my duty to welcome Professor Dr. S. Surya Prakash Rao, who is presently the Vice Chancellor of Damodaram Sanjeeva National Law University, Visakhapatnam. and he has been serving in the post of Vice Chancellor of the Visakhapatnam National Law University, Damodaran Sanjeeva University, since December 2018. Before that, he was the Vice Chancellor of the Maharashtra National Law University, Aurangabad, in Maharashtra, and before that, he was a professor of law at the National Law India Institute of University at Bhopal, Madhya Pradesh. And he is a prolific writer who has written so many research articles on contemporary issues, and he has more than 25 years of experience in legal academics and legal research. And we are very honored, very fortunate to have you, sir. Sir is now in United States. The time there is midnight, past midnight. So, in spite of all these difficulties and inconvenience, sir is here with us. On behalf of all of those present here, and on behalf of the Kerala Law Academy and Center for Advanced Legal Studies and IQLC, I extend to you, sir, a very warm welcome. Welcome, sir. Welcome to Professor Dr. S. Suryaprakash, sir, to this inaugural function. Next, we have Professor Jiva Nirela, who is here to give us the keynote address. Professor Jiva Nirela is not a stranger as far as this institution is concerned, is very much associated with this institution and has participated in several of our activities and programs. Madam is the professor in law, Faculty of Law, University of Colombo, and also a Dean of the Faculty of Criminal Justice of the General Sir John Kotewala Defense University. She was a member of the first board of management of the National Authority for Protection of Victims of Crime and Witnesses from 2016 to 2018, and was also appointed as the government director and, in fact, the first female director of Colombo Stock Exchange, Sri Lanka, from 2012 to 2019. She has been the chairperson of the Dispute Resolution Subcommittee and the Regulatory Affairs Subcommittee of the Colombo Stock Exchange, Sri Lanka. She was member of the Executive Committee of the Prison Welfare Association, Sri Lanka, from 2003 to 2010. She was a member of the National Research Council, National Science Foundation, Sri Lanka, from 2006 to 2011. And Madam has also served as a member of the editorial and review boards of many reputed and prestigious international journals and international annuals of criminology published by the Cambridge University. And I take the privilege to welcome you, Madam, Professor Dr. Jiva Nirela, to this function, to this inaugural function to deliver the keynote address. Welcome, Madam. Welcome to this function. Welcome, please. We also have Professor Dr. Vishwajit Das, who is here to deliver the special address. Sir, you are the professor and founding director of the Center for Culture, Media and Governance, Jamia Millia Islami University, New Delhi. Sir was previously the associate professor at the Department of Sociology, Jamia Millia Islami University, New Delhi. He has 3 decades of teaching and research experience in the field of theory, method, and history of communication in India. And his research has been supported by the Indo-French Scholarship, Shastri Indo-Canadian Institute, Charles Wales Trust Foundation, Ford Foundation, UNESCO, UNDP, and UGC and ICSSR. And we are very fortunate to have you, sir, here for this function to deliver special address. On behalf of all those present here and on behalf of the Kerala Law Academy and Center for Advanced Legal Studies, I extend a very warm welcome to you, sir, Professor Dr. Vishwajit sir. Das, sir. Thank you. Welcome, sir. Please. For felicitation, we have another important dignitary, important personality, is Sri B. Srijan, who is associate editor of the New Indian Express. As you know, the New Indian Express is a very important and reputed and most prestigious newspaper in our society. It's a very old one. It has been the part of the earlier Indian Express, and the associate editor of the New Indian Express is here with us, and you will have a lot to contribute to our seminar. and he's a senior journalist having more than 22 years experience covering Kerala as an investigative reporter, political reporter, and development journalist. He has also many award-winning investigative reports on the complicities of Sister Abhaya's murder, Kashmir terror recruitment cases, which are among his notable work as a journalist. A very warm welcome to you, sir. Sri B. Srinijan, sir. I extend a very warm welcome to you, sir. Welcome, sir. Next, we have, for the function, we have our Director, Students and Faculty Affairs, Professor K. Anil Kumar, sir, who is our one of the directors of our institution, who is in charge of students and faculty affairs. And after he has taken charge, our institution has been very vibrant and has been going step by step towards greater heights. He is a constant source of support and motivation for all the organizers, members of the organizing team, and all our events. For the sake of formality, I welcome you, sir, to this function. Anil Kumar, sir, I welcome you, sir. Now we have the principal of our institution, very important person as far as our institution is concerned, Professor K. Harindran, sir, who is the motivator behind all our events. And he is a very important person, as not only for the institution, for all the activities, because he has been a constant source of support and a motivator and a leader for all our activities. I welcome Professor Harindran, sir, principal, to this function. Then Dr. Dakshina, then our professor, assistant professor of our institution, then assistant professor Darshana Stampi, who are in charge of this. I especially welcome them, and I welcome all the other senior professors and teachers to this function. The student moderators, Tulika Suresh and Arpita Prazoon, are going to do a wonderful job here, have started doing the wonderful job here. I welcome them also here. And on behalf of all those present here, and on behalf of Kerala Law Academy and others, I welcome all the participants of this inaugural function, the participants of the seminar, students, and all others who are present here, and especially members of the media who are present here to this inaugural function. Welcome all. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir, for your warm welcome. I take this opportunity to graciously welcome you too to the session, sir. We have with us today Dr. N.K. Jayakumar, former Vice Chancellor, Noels, Kochi, for the presidential address. It's my honor to welcome you, sir. Sir, please.
Thank you. Professor Surya Prakash, Professor Jiva Miriela, Professor Vishwajit Das, Srijit, Director of the Law Academy, Mr. Dr.N.Narayanan, student moderators, Tulika and Arpita, faculty and students of the Kerala Law Academy. This is a seminar on a very important subject of topical relevance. I'm sure that keeping up with the tradition of the Kerala Law Academy, this seminar will come out with significant recommendations. And the proceedings will be made available to a larger section of concerned people after the seminar is over. So let me take the opportunity to congratulate Dr. Dakshina and others for their initiative in organizing this seminar. Of course, when we organize a seminar on changing dimensions of media law, the first question that comes to anybody's mind is the question, Why do we consider the media as very important? Why do we cherish the freedom of the media as a very important value to be protected in our system? I am sure that some of the papers will address these questions in depth. But without entering into an elaborate discussion on these aspects, I will just say a few words, introductory words, about some of the questions that could be relevant in our discussion on changing dimensions of the media law. We consider the media important because media has a very important role in preserving and protecting democracy, democratic values. The concept of democracy is built up on the premise of people who can make informed decisions, informed choices. How do the people do that? The people can make informed decisions only when they get the right information. Only when the right information is made available to them. This is one of the predominant tasks the media has to perform in a democratic society. It was mentioned in the welcome address that the media is known as the fourth estate. The word fourth estate was first used by Edmund Burke in the year 1787. After three other estates, the Lords, Commons, and the clergy, media was placed on an equal footing with these three important pillars of democracy. And it used to be called the fourth estate. Now, from those days, when Edmund Burke spoke about the fourth estate, we have traveled a lot of distance, long distances. And just to give you an idea about the position that the media occupies in India today, let me just point out that now we have more than 100,000 registered newspapers in India. I don't want to make any comparison with the countries other than India. But taking the case of India, the number of registered newspapers in our country is more than 100,000. The number of news channels alone, is more than 400 now. And 150 new news channels are waiting for clearance by government, get a license from government to start their telecast. This shows the huge phenomenal expansion that took place in the media scene in recent years. And along with that, we must also take into consideration the technological revolution. The focus has shifted from newspapers to electronic media, visual electronic media. I have read in several accounts on the political history of Kerala that political awareness became widespread in the state of Kerala through newspapers, primarily through newspapers. In factories located in Kerala, when people work, there will be one person who will read the newspapers to the workers while they are working. After their work, they will discuss the current issues because they gather information from the newspapers. But remember, those were the days when newspapers served a public purpose. Newspapers were primarily intended for giving the right kind of information to the people, making them think, making them able to take decisions and arrive at right choices. But today we find a different picture, with the focus shifting from the print media to the electronic media. It is obvious that media has become a very costly, investment-intensive business. Actually, the question arises, whom do we protect when we speak of freedom of the media? To whom this freedom belongs? Is it media as an industry, with the owner of the media at the focal point? Or the media as technology, which needs protection? Of course, we may be able to combine, harmonize these two different aspects of media freedom. But still, one word which was very much prominent in our discussions on the media, it is editorial freedom. Earlier, in any discussion on media freedom, we were having in mind the freedom of the editor, the person who is responsible for selecting the news, the person who is responsible for deciding which particular news must get prominence, which must reach the people, the readers, with emphasis. This kind of editorial freedom is not being discussed enough, because editorial freedom has become a very unpopular word, or I don't know, undesirable word. Whatever it be, media freedom came to be equated with the freedom of the owner, freedom of the person or persons who invest money in the business of the media. This is natural, because after the technological revolution and after liberalization, economic liberalization, press, I use the word press to embrace all media. The press today has become big business. And naturally, as a big business, it has been corporatized. With corporatization comes all the goods and evils of that. So here we have a media which is corporatized, which depends on heavy investment by corporates. And they have vested interest to protect. Now, I began with drawing your attention to the relation between freedom of the press and democracy. How freedom of the press is vital. In fact, a prerequisite for the survival of democracy. That is the reason why practically every constitution in the world protects freedom of the press, freedom of the media. The American Constitution may be one of the few constitutions where it is expressly mentioned. Of course, we in India don't have freedom of the press as an express guaranteed right in our constitution. It's included in Article 19(1)(a). It speaks about freedom of speech and expression. which is subject to reasonable restrictions. On what basis of reasonable restrictions to be imposed is also stated very explicitly in the constitutional provision, Article 19(2). So it is obvious that our constitution makers did not want to confer any special status on the rights of the media, but wanted to keep that freedom as a part of the freedom of the people, freedom of Indian citizens to express themselves, and subject to all the reasonable restrictions which are applicable to ordinary people. In the United States, when the Constitution makes an express mention of freedom of the press, many decisions of the American Supreme Court, I don't want to mention the names now, many decisions of the American Supreme Court categorically said the specific mention of freedom of the press in the Constitution does not confer any special privilege on the press. Whenever I use the word press, please understand that it means it covers entire media. So freedom of the media, even in America, which has a special status as per the Constitution, it is equal, always equated to the freedom of an individual, freedom of a citizen. Nothing less, nothing more. But when I say this, it is not to obliterate the fact that freedom of the press has a special dimension. What is that special dimension? It has a public role to perform. You or I may have freedom of speech and expression, but that has only an individual dimension. The press stands for the public. Freedom of the press has a public dimension which is much more relevant and important in a democracy. Having said this, let me also pose a question for those who discuss various themes in the subsequent technical sessions today. When we examine the question whether the press in India, the media in India, really perform a positive role as far as democracy is concerned, do they promote democracy by the exercise of their freedom? How much freedom of the press is protected in our country? What exactly are the challenges, the threats that freedom of the media faces today? These are all difficult questions, but just to draw your attention to the present state of affairs, let me tell you that there is an index published annually by the world, which is called the World Press Freedom Index. In that index, 180 countries are listed. And India's position was 142 in the year 2020. The same 142 in the year 2021. But during the current year, that is 2022, it has gone down by 8 points, 8 positions. Today, India's position in the World Press Freedom Index is 150 among 180 countries which are listed. Can we feel proud of this? The position of India further going down from the position of 142 in 2020 and 2021. Now we are at 150. Why? Why did this happen? The relation between the press and the state, the government, it's a very complicated relation. The state is a friend of the press as well as an enemy of the press. The state can nourish media freedom in so many ways. But even that encouragement and support may pose a very serious threat to media freedom. So media has to be afraid of state patronage, state encouragement, state protection. Unless they are in dire need of such state patronage. State may turn to be an enemy of the media when media begins doing things that the state doesn't like. What the state does not like is obviously criticism. But unless there is somebody to criticize, a democracy cannot survive. A democracy survives on the strength of the right to dissent, the right to protest, the right to criticize. Unless these rights are meaningfully exercised, democracy will be there only in name. Democracy will be there only as a hollow, empty ideology without any substance. So when the press begins to perform effectively the role of a critic, actually the government doesn't like the state. The powers that be, they never like criticism. They want to be appreciated, praised, showering praises on them. So how do you manage the situation? They try to manage criticism by suppressive measures. Even the law is used as a tool. The law which guarantees and is expected to protect freedom of the media, it is used as an instrument to suppress, subordinate the press. We have the colonial laws, the anti-sedition law. This is not in tune with a modern democracy. And it's a pity, very unfortunate that these provisions are being made use of to stifle criticism from the media. In 1962, there was a famous Kedarnath case, Kedarnath, the decision of the Supreme Court of India. Recently, 2 or 3 months back, the Supreme Court of India had again a relook at the interpretation of the anti-sedition law. And the court categorically declared that mere criticism can never amount to sedition. On the basis of criticism, you cannot charge a person with a criminal offense or punish that person. This much is clear. But in spite of that, the clear legal position, the clear constitutional position, you can harass people. And when this kind of harassment is not serving its purpose, other more violent, more fierce methods of suppression are taken up. Physical attacks on media persons. We'll be astonished to find the number of media persons killed in India during the last 20 years or 10 years. So media persons who are upright, media persons who are not afraid to express their criticism, especially the government, they are at a risk. They face very serious risk as professionals. But the very pathetic fact is that such upright, bold media persons are not protected even by the media houses which employ them. Because most of the media houses belong to corporate houses, and they have their corporate interests to protect. So as we move on, we find a situation where media freedom faces very serious threats, very serious challenges, very serious problems from several sources. And one important source is, of course, the government and the investors who have vested interests to protect. And for them, media freedom becomes a convenient device to further their own interests, not public interest. Their concern is not with the basic values of democracy, but their concern is basically with maximization of profit. If profits come from advertisements, then they will design strategies which are most suitable for luring, attracting advertisements. They will cater to those interests which want to promote further their commercial interests through advertising. So in this kind of a scenario, when we discuss the question, especially on the role of law in media law, what role should law play in protecting the freedom of the media, making media an effective instrument for the realization of our democratic values? This is the question which is crucially relevant for us today. And this is the area where institutions like the Kerala Law Academy and the Center for Advanced Legal Studies and Research can play a meaningful role. Let me hope that the present seminar will mark a beginning. This is not the end of our role, but this should be considered as a beginning to be followed up by further interactions, which must necessarily involve not only legal luminaries, but also people from the media. I'm glad that Mrs. Srijit is here with us today. But more persons in the media should be a part of such exercises. People from civil society. And only by such an exchange of views, exchange of ideas, we can attempt to find out solutions for the challenging problems that the media faces in our society. How do we, the crucial question, of course, is how do we make our democracy deep, strong, or stronger, in which function the media must definitely have a very decisive, very important role. I'm glad that I have been given an opportunity to speak a few words on this important topic. I thank the organizers for inviting me. I also seek your permission to leave this platform early because I have another important meeting at 11 o'clock. With your permission, I conclude my words, expressing again my gratitude to you, all of you, for giving me the opportunity and listening to me. My association with the Law Academy, as Nagaraj mentioned at the outset, is very long, very intimate, and very memorable. I cherish every occasion to be a part of any program organized by the Kerala Law Academy. Thank you again, the organizers. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, sir, for filling us with the awe and joy of your wisdom. We have the privilege of the esteemed presence of Professor Dr. S. Suryaprakash, Vice Chancellor, Damodaram Sanjeevaya National Law University, Visakhapatnam. I'm deeply privileged to invite Professor Dr. S. Suryaprakash for the inaugural address. Sir, please.
Thank you, Arpita. It's my privilege. Am I audible?
Yes.
Yeah? Okay,
Yes, sir.
okay.
Yes, sir, you're audible.
Okay. Thank you very much, Arpita. And thank you to the Kerala Law Academy. And I have to say good morning, and here it is midnight, more than midnight. Professor N.K. Jaykumarji, the senior and who is steering this Kerala Academy. And good morning, sir. Advocate Dr.N.Narayanan, and our friend and our research committee member, Professor Jiva Nirela, and Mr. Srijan, and other dignitaries who are virtually participating in this international seminar, faculty members, dear students, and the participants from other colleges and other universities. And extremely delighted to join this seminar, and particularly, I cannot say no to any invitation from Kerala, because today, whatever I am, Professor N.R. Madhav Menon, I can say that I am his disciple, and probably all of you are aware that I wrote his biography and my association with him. So, and my friends from Kerala, when I think Dr. Saraswati asked me, I said that I may not be available, I will be in US. But still she insisted that thank you, Dr. Saraswati, to making me to address this seminar. Because this is a very quite interesting subject. I congratulate Kerala Law Academy for selecting a topic which is very, very appropriate for the present times. And there is no hypothesis, it's a conclusion. If you look at the topic, changing dimensions of media law. There are three things. There is change dimensions and media law. So first of all, what is media? And we should know what is media, and then what are the different dimensions of media, and then we'll come to law. And my senior Professor N.K. Jaykumarji has given an elaborate view. He has filled the canvas with different ideas, and today what's happening, where Indian media stands in the international rankings, and there's so many things. He has given a very broad picture of Indian media. And here I would like to discuss or throw some more ideas, taking cue from your title of the seminar, that is the media and dimensions. And definitely there is a change, and this is continuous process. That is, the media law is changing. And what is this change? Whether the change is for good, or whether it is positive change or a negative change. As Professor Jayakumar has said that the international rankings and where particularly when we look at that sedition law, and we'll come to this Vinod case later at a later stage. Here, I would like to remind you, I think it's Napoleon who said that pen is mightier than sword. So this simple sentence speaks about what is the importance. It may be called fourth estate, it is important in democracy and so many things. Pen is mightier than sword reflects what is the strength of media, what is the power of media, what media can do. So what sword can't do, the media, that is the pen can do. Pen means the media. So today we are living not in the era of news. Once media is meant for news to convey the information, whether it is the Stone Age or today we are in the space age. When I'm saying Stone Age means even we look at the ancient times, even Emperor Ashoka, he used to write, inscribe on stones and what are the good things and what are the people he is expected to do. All these tablets, they are installed at different places and these are still available. That means the citizens, they should be informed, and there is a right to information, and there is Article 19(1)(a), and there are so many things subject to reasonable restrictions. And here the question is, what is the information that the citizen is receiving as and today? That's the most important. Today, common man is very much confused. Because when we look at media, there is a print media, and sir has said that the number of newspapers, and in India, number of newspapers, the number is increasing, whatever may be the reasons. And then already registered 400 electronic channels, and more than 100 still they are pending. And then we have another most vibrant and dangerous media, that is social media, that is Twitter, WhatsApp groups, Facebook, Instagram, and so many other platforms where news could be spread very easily. The very recent instance, when this Agnipath was announced, one man, A. Subbarao from Telangana, who is running this defense training institute coaching center. Because of this, it is estimated that he has some 7 or 9 branches throughout India, and where he is giving coaching to the prospective army candidates. And because of this Agnipath, he lost his business. And then he formed the groups, and in 10 through WhatsApp groups, he has sent messages and he arranged the whole agitation. And we know the loss that has happened in Sikandrabad and in Bihar and in many other places. So that is the power of even the social media. That is WhatsApp, Facebook, and Instagram, etc., etc. So when we look at the print media, we have so many papers and we have so many English. We saw the era of great reporters like G.K. Reddy, Arun Shourie, and those are the days where we read the newspaper, we use it to trust the news. That is, there won't be any fabrication. There won't be any contamination in the news. The news was considered to be pure. The ideas are the editorials, and particularly the English newspapers like Hindu and the Indian Express. In those days, of course, Indian Express is still maintaining that neutrality and its sincerity. And I do not know about the other, the boasting national newspaper, the Hindu. And so whatever the news, because for the last 30 years, I have been reading the newspapers, particularly at least 7, 5, 6 newspapers, some 2, 3 regional papers. and we can see the change and why this change is happening with what I understood as a common man. And then we have electronic media. In electronic media, we have the news channels and debates. And if we look at the debates, and we know we don't allow children to watch those debates because of the language that is used. And had there been pistols or guns, definitely the participants in the debates, they may shoot each other. That would be the provocation that may create in these debates. That is, the gentleness in the debates has gone, and the news channels debates, and then we have the serials, and what kind of serials, Hindi, and so what was the necessary pollution, that is, what is pollution, air pollution through these media channels, and the cultural pollution, and all kinds of pollution is injected into the society. And also we have media is also, movies also a part of media. And so if we look at the media, we have the print media, that is main Hindi newspapers, English newspapers, regional newspapers, and then electronic media, and then social media. So media means, when we are using one word media, media includes all these things. And definitely, and I think the UPA 2 government, it has allowed 100% FDI in the media. That is, some of our media houses, they were taken over, hostile taken over by some investors from Europe, and some investors, even if ISI has institutional investors, even if ISI has invested in some of our news media companies, there is no wonder. There is no wonder. That means ISI, it won't, but it will route its money through some other institution in Europe or in somewhere, and that money will come to the media. And then when we have, as Chekman has rightly said, that corporatization of this media industry is over. And when this is in the corporatization, when they are doing business, they want profits. And here some media houses, they are not happy only with profits. Even they want to do more in India. It may be change, inject the political philosophy, or it may be to inject their social philosophy, or so many things. Because India is such a diverse country and there are so many opinions. That means what is happening, whether it is a print media or whether it is electronic media, several narratives are coming. Several narratives are coming. So what are these narratives? So for example, sometime I will give you only 2 examples, and then some time back, maybe some 10 years or so, there was a militant attack in the state of Jammu and Kashmir, and that militant was caught alive. The militant was caught alive, and he was asked by the journalist, why you are here? He's obviously he's from Pakistan, and he said that I enjoy killing Hindus. And next day, all papers published it. But the paper which boasts national newspaper, it has published saying that I enjoy killing. That means the truth is not published. That is, they have censored the truth. That's the problem. So some papers, some media houses, they publish untruth. Some media houses, they publish, they censor the truth. Then what is happening is there are so many narratives. And recently there is a movie, because we are not much aware of what has happened in the state of Jammu and Kashmir. Common man is not aware. So when this movie was released, there are so many reviews, and it's a small budget film, and it competed with the heavy budget films, and it has made a box office collection very well. Now here, I saw the reviews, and even I'm also confused. What's happened? Is everything is true? And when we see, so I also started, it created an interest to know more about what has happened in 1990s. So whether what was shown in the movie, whether this is fact or fiction. So I started reading information about this Kashmir files, whether whatever was shown in the picture. So I have come across a book. It was written by none other than Salman Khurshid. So the former Home Minister, he wrote a book that is Kashmir Beyond Terrorism. The book was also, he wrote that book in 1990s, early 1990s, 91 or something like that. And what was shown, everything was written by Salman Khurshid in his own book. He was the author. And definitely Salman Khurshid was a Congress leader, former foreign minister, and we cannot attribute any allegations that when he wrote that book some 30 years back. So that what was shown, it was, I myself convinced that what was shown in the movie, it was correct. And it was very much true what has happened that day. I'm not judging, just I'm saying that it was truth. Because it was written by, if some other RSS fellow or some other fellow he writes, that's a different story. But here is a man, a congressman who wrote that book. And also there are some articles by a Kashmiri journalist, Seema Jabbar. I learned that she is a senior journalist. She works from both Delhi and Srinagar. And she also has given the more or less, and she has given even more details. So when it was a truth, why there was a controversy? There are so many movies that has come on Holocaust, right from Schindler's List to during so many, still there are so many people there, and so many English movies were there on Jews, genocide of Jews, that is atrocities committed by Nazis. So when there was no problem for making movies by the atrocities committed by Jews, why there should be any objection if the atrocities committed by terrorists was picturized? And so why? Because the senior editors, they know the truth, but still by putting a title that Kashmir Files, fact or fiction, and then there are debates, and then yes, something has happened. It should not have happened, but it has happened. Then what should be the remedy? Then how these displaced people could be resettled, and how best we can make some compromise, and how can we send them back? So what should be the planning? That should be, there should be discussion on those issues, but totally denying the truth by the media. So here what's happening? So because I have the interest and because I try to probe, I have the access. I spoke to some of my friends, and one of my friends, he suggested this book. Okay, you read this book written by Salman Khurshid, all your doubts will be clarified. Suppose those who have no idea, those who have no access, what will happen? They keep lingering in the confusion. That means here the narratives. And see how biased sometimes our media. When we have this Nirbhaya case, So Nirbhaya case was the only case where the rape and murder has happened. Because the Nirbhaya case happened in Delhi, this was highlighted. If the same thing has happened, if a girl was gang raped recently in Hyderabad and also in some other places, suppose if a village girl, a tribal girl, or girl belongs to some other socially backward classes, so media won't bother. Just hardly there could be, and even the society also, there won't be candlelight marches for if a tribal girl is or sometime back a tribal young man, he was lynched to death because he has stolen a loaf of bread or something in Kerala. So those things, there won't be if human rights are violated, if they belong to scheduled caste, scheduled tribes or backward classes, then there won't be any mocha or candlelight marches, etc. That means what the point I would like to drive is that even the media, whether it is electronic media or whether it is print media, they are also very much biased. So someone has invested the money in the media and he will take a political line. He will have his own philosophy, whether he wants to make the country or he wants to destroy the country. So the whole machinery in that media house will follow his planning. If he wants to make a constructive criticism, they will make the constructive criticism. If they want to destroy the country, they will publish the articles and the whole narratives in the newspapers or in the media. They will be towards anarchism or creating more and more troubles in the society. So today, particularly in India, the media also very much vertically and horizontally divided. And nobody will reveal their real intentions. Of course, there is some media houses like Indian Express, which I have a lot of respect. And still, they, as I said, that still they are maintaining the neutrality. And for your information, you have on some time back, because in South we used to read Indian Express and the Hindu newspapers. And they have produced reporters like G.K. Reddy and P. Sainath, who has come up with two glasses theory and wonderful articles. And also we have recently read an article written by their social editor, Mr. Sampath Nasty, and he has exposed his intellectual bankruptcy. And satire could be done, but satire, he has crossed all the limits of the civility. So, in spite of enjoying, because I do not want to go deep into the article, Sampath article, a satiric article written some 4 or 5 days back, which I read on because the newspapers are available, even electronic media. So, what I would like to tell you is that here we have freedom, and definitely in India, the freedom is either media or there are restrictions, and at times the political parties or the governments, they are trying to suppress. But still, India is a country where, if you look into right from the beginning, when the Britishers, they come up with the censor and oppression, then the whole freedom movement, it awakened through Young India, Harijan, Kesari, and so many more, Navjawan, and all these newspapers. And India has come a long way in making laws, particularly giving freedom and also regulating the freedom of the media. But recently, one matter that was brought to the notice of the Supreme Court regarding this sedition case by Mr. Vinod Dua, the senior journalist, and he also asked for uh, remission from, and also for a judicial committee not to slap cases of serious cases like defamation and sedition on the senior journalists who are having some 10 years experience. But that was not, it was Vinod Dua versus Union of India in 2021. So he was charged for sedition over a YouTube video he made in 2021, criticizing the government. So he challenged the FIR and FIR was quashed. However, he asked for that no case shall be registered belonging to the media with at least 10 years of standing unless cleared by the judicial committee. And he also made a plea that there should be a judicial committee in order to what we call to register any cases against the journalists, particularly the senior journalists. But that proposal was not accepted. And even in Indian Express newspapers, Bombay versus Union of India, the court has observed in today's free world, freedom of press is a heart of social and political intercourse. So the Supreme Court and it has always supportive of the freedom of press. The press has now assumed the role of public educator, making formal and non-formal education. So the Supreme Court, but what kind of education? Because the narratives will change the destiny of the nation. I repeat, narratives will change the destiny of the nation. And here in India today, what's happening is the false narratives that are injected by the media. And what is false, what is right? Now, the common man is confused, and the educated, they have no time, and those who have time, they have to come up with their own butter. Even though they can read, they know, but they won't get a platform to express what is the truth. And in conclusion, because there are so many laws and all these things, what I mean to that, a balance has to be maintained. Freedom of press has to be, the press should enjoy its own freedom, but however, press should maintain its own values. In the scroll, when we switch on TV, you will get a bottom line saying that if you have any complaints, you may make a complaint. So instead of making the complaint, why don't you regulate? Because regulation comes, the press won't say that, no, press should not be regulated. So here, what was said by US Supreme Court in 1924 in Gilto versus New York, the court has observed it is a fundamental principle long established that freedom of speech and press, which is secured by the Constitution, does not confer an absolute right to speak or publish without responsibility, whatever one may choose, or an unrestricted, unbridled license that gives immunity for every possible usage of language and prevents punishment of those who abuse this freedom. That is in the Supreme Court, that is in the American Constitution, where there was specific freedom of press. There, the Supreme Court of United States has given a veiled warning that you enjoy the freedom of press, but however, you should not cross that Lakshman Rekha. But undoubtedly, somehow I do not want to blame the whole media, but at least some or most where the corporatization of media took place. The media industry, they are not only crossing, they are erasing this Lakshman Rekha. And as I said that, I repeat, the false narratives. See, if there is a rape case, there is a rape. If the rapist belongs to a particular community, the names won't be published. If they belongs to a majority community, their biography also will be published. So even today, the people are also becoming intelligent. They are not trusting. Today, people of India, they are not ready to trust whatever the trash that is published in the newspapers or in the news channels. Just their time pass, they read and they will throw it. Nobody wants to keep the garbage in their minds. So the responsibility squarely lies on the media itself. So, because as I said in the beginning, pen is mightier than sword. Today's narratives tomorrow will change the destiny of the nation. With these few words, I am grateful to the organizers for giving me this opportunity and for allowing me to share my thoughts, what's my opinion, because particularly for this purpose only I accepted. Thank you very much for giving me this wonderful opportunity.
Thank you so much, sir, for providing us the opportunity to imbibe your words of wisdom and enlightening us with the same. Next, we have the presence of Professor Jeeva Niriyala, Dean, Faculty of Criminal Justice, General Sir John Kotlawala Defense University. She also serves as the Professor in Law at Faculty of Law, University of Colombo. I'm extremely delighted to invite Professor Jeeva Niriyala, ma'am, for the keynote address. Ma'am, please.
Very good morning to you all. One minute, you need to find it out, all your names. Yeah, so Senior Advocate Dr.N.Narayanan, the Director of Kerala Law Academy and member of the Bar Council of Kerala, and Dr. N.K. Jayakumar, former Vice Chancellor of NUALS Kochi, and the President who gave the presidential address, and my friend, Professor Dr. S. Surya Prakash, Vice Chancellor of Damodar Sanjeeviya National Law University, and who very sincerely invited me to be one of the research committee members of their research ethics committee, and Professor Dr. Biswajit Das, Professor and founding director of Center of Culture, Media and Governance of Jamia Millia Islam, New Delhi, and Sri Sajeen, Associate Editor of New Indian Express, and the who are, involved in this conference, this inaugural session as the moderators, as well as, the organizers. I took little time because I'm not that much familiar with some of the names. So very good, once again, very good morning to you all, and to my friend, Professor Surya Kumar. I don't say good night, but a good late evening to you, right? And let me to thank first the organizers of Kerala Academy Law College for organizing this virtual international seminar on changing dimensions of media law. Actually, as the two previous speakers very clearly pointed out, and the same thing I also have to point out, that is this particular theme is very timely relevant, and that is very important because after this the pandemic situation, so we all suffered for, let's say that 2 years time, 2 years period, and now we are facing one very unfortunate situation, that is Ukraine-Russia war. So I think that India is the giant in this region, but Sri Lanka is very tiny. Many countries like that, jurisdictions like us, we are very, some of the negative, the repercussions and the results that we really, we are highly impacted on this war situation. So therefore, getting and come to know what is happening and all these things are based on this, the information, getting information. Therefore, and to get the correct information, not false information, misrepresentation, and miscommunication, so on and so forth. So therefore, to me, as the other speakers, this is very timely and very important area that should be taken at this the international forum. And also let me to, allow me to express my sincere gratitudes for you to inviting me for this year to deliver the keynote speech at this important international seminar. As Director Sir said, I'm not new to Kerala, this law academy, because some of the presenters, one is Dr. Anish, I have the friendship maybe very close to 1.5 decades like. Therefore, I can't say no when you ask me to, contribute at any, situation, I do that. So then that is why now this time actually we don't have power. So yesterday night somehow I got ready to contribute the few words with you at this conference, because I feel that it is a very great honor for me inviting without forgetting me whatever you have in this academic the collaboration. So now today's this main theme, rather the topic is changing dimensions of media law. So as Professor Surya Prakash as well as the previous the welcome speech also, it was said that we can just unpack this particular theme into different parts. The changing dimensions, media and law. So when it comes to law, it may be international law or it may be the different domestic laws, maybe Sri Lanka, maybe India, maybe other countries as some speakers said, America, or that, whatever the country is. So many of the things actually in the different the viewpoints the other speakers also pointed out, but let me also to speak my point of view also special reference to Sri Lanka. So if you take first the media, so I went through that to get a very concrete definition for that. So there was no, I found that, very concrete one, but we can simply describe that media as a communication outlet or a tool used to either to store or deliver information and the data, to exchange data and the information with the other, the people. So if I'm not wrong, today's conference focuses on mass media, which refers to diverse area of media that reaches a large audience via mass communication. So if we just look at what is mass media or mass communication, that is a process of imparting and exchanging information as well as data and all that, what we would like to listen and hear and see through mass media to large segments of population. Today it is crossing the borders, and it goes to it is confined to one country. It goes to internationally, so universally. So that means the universal population is today. So therefore, it is usually understood as relating to various forms of media and different mechanisms, including modern digital technology, are used for dissemination of information, as I said, exchange, of which journalism and advertising are also part of that. So my dear friends and the participants, if you consider mass communication, I think that you agreed to me to say that it differs from the other types of communication, such as interpersonal communication and organizational communication, because it focuses only particular resources transmitting information to many receivers. So therefore, I hope you all agree to say that mass media is different from the other two. In that context, if you look at media and media law and its changing dimensions, many aspects that can be considered. I hope that many of the things I'm very quickly trying to relate it to because of the very short time given to me. And many the research, and the researchers, as well as the academics, they will come with their recent research findings. So, my dear friends, so here we have to look at that when it comes to the different dimensions of media first. So, media and its law. So, we must look at that media and ethics. This is very much important today to consider that. And media law and morality, because law and morality, I'm a criminal lawyer plus a law teacher. So whatever I look at that, I see the criminal aspect also. So then when it comes to morality, it is more than what the law says, whether the media law, whether we have our media and whether we have the law that is really protect, some of the moral aspects, whether we like it or not, that also should be protected. So then another aspect is media law and crimes and crime causation. So, as you are aware, when we discuss and we learn criminology, you may see that the many situations that, media supports to increase the crime rate. I hope that, the journalists and the other media personnel won't get angry with me because that is one of the things that we learn. Media is one source to, support to increase the crime rate, because when we see that the way that some of the information are disseminating with the people are different, their absorb capacity are different, the knowledge and everything is different. So therefore, when you cater for something for a large audience, you have to look at all the different the people who are listening to this, or who are watching this, or who are reading, so on and so forth. If not, what would happen? Many of the time, especially I see that in Sri Lanka, the young generation, because of some of the media, the forms, and they learned a lot of the so-called bad things that, and through that they engage in the traditional crimes as well as the unconventional crimes. So therefore, it is we have to consider that the media law, when it comes to it, is changing dimensions, how that media really either to support or contribute to crime causation. And media law and democracy. It's I think that India is a very democratic country, and Sri Lanka, all the countries, they say that, many of the things are happening on the other way around. So then media law, especially media, it's related to democracy. And more than that, a person who is coming from the legal fraternity, I look at that, the media law, and its interrelationship within the changing dimension, the changing nature of the human rights. Therefore, I thought to the next 5 to 10 minutes, let's say that 8 minutes, to, very quickly go through that So media freedom, and it is the reference to Sri Lanka and how it is closely related to the human rights rather the fundamental rights. So media freedom is very closely associated with democracy, and it is one of the essential or key foundations of democracy, as the other speakers said. Freedom of media is also a vital foundation of development, economic development, because as Professor Surya Kumar said that media can either to completely demolish a country or to support, go with the rocket speed of the economic development. Media freedom reflects the high quality of dialogue and protecting and promoting the human rights of the general public, as well as the who are engaged in this particular area. So countries that ensure greater media freedom generally have strong political stability as well, and rule of law, efficiencies, government policies and processes, and regulatory quality. However, it is important to note that there is no concrete, rather the 100% accurate definition for the term media freedom. According to some of the dictionaries, especially the Britannica, the encyclopedia, and if you take the general parlance, media freedom is the freedom of various kinds of sources of communication to operate in a civil society. It extends the traditional idea of freedom of the print media, means the press, including newspapers, the magazines, the pamphlets, so on and so forth, to electronic media such as radio, television, and today, as the other speakers very clearly pointed out, social media, including FB, Instagram, YouTube, a lot of, I'm not a correct person to talk all the different, the social media platforms. So unlike earlier, media today is not only owned by government, I think this is common to India as well, but also private companies who owned by individuals and group. So therefore, what would happen? So when it is privatized in the sense open to other people, one hand it is protected the rights of the people. Yes, I do agree that. So what would happen on the other hand, but this is the flip side of and the bad side. So then people invest something, not for anything, get the profit. So therefore, whatever they have, there's some kind of tendency, right, will create to sell whatever they have with the very high competition. So then the quality will go down. So when it comes to Sri Lanka, the laws have enacted to enable the private persons to own media, stations, channels, and institutions. Two examples I can share with you. Ceylon Broadcasting Corporation Act number 37 of 1996 and Sri Lanka Rupavahini Act number 6 of 1982. Why I mention all these things, if you do any research with the comparative study, I think that, it is benefited by those who are trying to do that. So there, what would happen? The electronic media and the print media were given that to to the private sector also to have their own ones. So today, when you go through Sri Lanka, there are, maybe 50 to 60 newspapers and some of the print media. So then the radio channels, as well as we have that the Rupavahini channels as well. So it's to me as a common person, it's a severe, the kind of the competition for them to sell what they have. So that is one of the bad side that I see. So I'm not going to define that how that our laws define newspaper and how our laws define the TV programs and all. I simply want to mention that only the related the statutes. They are Sri Lanka Press Council Law number 5 of 1973 and Sri Lanka Rupavahini Corporation Act number 6 of 1992. That is again for your benefit, because I see that some of the students are participating in this virtual seminar. So as far as the media freedom is concerned, it is closely associated with human rights. When it comes to Sri Lanka, the constitution, the fundamental rights of people in country, that is very similar to India and America and other countries as well. So there are some international human rights instruments adopted by UN to guarantee the media freedom, not as per se media freedom, but it's, in other way, it including the freedom of speech, freedom of expression, so on and so forth. They are UDHR, ICCPR, and UNCESCR. So if you take Article 19 of ICCPR, that says that everyone shall have the right to freedom of expression. The right shall include freedom to seek, receive, and impart information and ideas of all kinds, regardless of font bias, either orally, in writing, or in print, in the form of art, through any other media, its own choice to recognize. And this has been very particularly recognized, I think, in your country, India, Article 19.1, and my country, that is Article 14 of the Constitution. So in addition to that, in Sri Lanka, the Constitution guarantees to the information, right to information. I think that is also one of the important aspects that India also had looked at it. That is accepted or guaranteed in Article 14A, freedom of thought and conscience, that is through Article 10 of the Constitution. Almost all are in India also. I know that your Constitution also very much secured that, but I think we all agree to that point. None of the constitutions that they are very much, they have the very specific fundamental rights included in their constitution, mentioning the freedom of media. However, in Sri Lanka Parliament has passed a lot of the statutes, one hand to regularize and to protect the media freedom. They are Information Act number 12 and 2016, ICCPR Act number 5 of 2007 to protect media freedom. So there are a number of cases, Supreme Court cases, took the same stand, but I would like to mention only two here, the landmark judgments, which upheld the principles of media freedom. They are Fernando versus the Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation, 1996, 1 SLR, page 157. I invite you, all of you, to go through that. It's a very important case. The other one is Singarasa versus Attorney General, Supreme Court, number 182/99, decided in September, 15th September 2006. So if I summarizing above all, I would say media freedom included the following forms of freedom, which are closely connected and related to each other. They are freedom of expression, freedom of speech, freedom of thought, freedom of opinion, freedom of right to information, and freedom of publication, including freedom of press, freedom of broadcasting, and freedom of internet, especially the social media. However, if you go through the history of Sri Lanka, the last 44 years, after it is enacted the present constitution in 1978, you can see that a lot of human rights violations have been taken place against these journalist people. So it started from, the torture, the abduction, this and that, and all these things. Finally, today you can see that it extended to the violations of the human rights of the people who really try to give something, the information to the general public. So we can say that the journalists who are involved in the media. So 3 examples I would very quickly want to give you how that has been extended to the social media as well. That is blocking e-Lanka News website on 16th November 2017, blocking social media and websites restricted access to social media after Easter Sunday attack, 21st April 2019. Shut down the internet 17th March 2018 in some areas of the countries. And recently there was a big, protest arose against that from the general public against blocking social media on 8th and 9th of April 2022. So similarly, there are, law as well as we have the cases also to protect the media freedom. But on the other hand, the law itself have some of the restrictions. There are, a lot of, even the Constitution, if you take the Constitution, Article 15(2), Article 13 and Article 14. So there are the restrictions is given to saying that the security forces and the police and other forces, so subject to the restrictions of prescribed by law. So media freedom should be understood subject to that. That means one hand is given something, the other hand, so taking back. So this is how the Sri Lankan situation is. So more to that, we have some legislations which is really put some restrictions on media freedom. That is, if you take the Official Publications Ordinance number 47 of 1946, Public Security Ordinance number 25 of 1947, which provides the head of the state to come with the declared emergency regulations. Now we are having a lot of problems. Sometimes I don't know whether in an exaggerating form or the real truth that you come to know through the media. So then the Official Secrets Act number 32 of 1955, Prevention of Terrorism Act 948 of 1979, Press Council Act number 5 of 1973, and Parliament Powers and Privileges Act number 21 of 1953. So then there are the Parliament Powers and Privileges Amendment in 1997. These are some of the very important statutes are always, come into the criticism of the people when it comes to the general public as well as the journalism part. So stating that the media freedom is very strictly restricted. So I would like to give you some important cases as far as the media freedom is concerned. They are Fernando versus Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation. I have stated that earlier also. So the Supreme Court very correctly held that Article 14(1)(a), that means the freedom of expression should not be interpreted narrowly, and it is included to right to obtain recorded information as well. But it is very clearly pointed out that only the right and correct information, right? But however, there is an issue arises. So how that one person can say that to me it is the right one, right? So it is correct. The other person say that no, it is not, unlike. So therefore, I suggest that where we have to look at that to control that there should be not the laws, but then it is restricted the rights of the media person has come with the kind of a guidelines where that they can have maintained their own ethics to give that the correct and the very true information. There is another one, Vishwalingam versus Leonagi, 1984, 2 SLR, page 127. There also it is considered that the freedom of expression, including media freedom also, is a kind of the fundamental rights guaranteed in our law. So then Heva Manan versus Manike de Silva, 1983, 1 SLR, page 1, that is also considered that the media freedom is one of the fundamental rights that come under the right to speech and the freedom of expression. So since many other two, the three speakers, they clearly came with the number of facts and the issues and how that can be media personnel also can violate the ethics, the rules, the regulations, so on and so forth, especially the moral, the ethics and philosophy and everything. On the other hand, this is the only the channel that the general public, you and I, can get what is really happening in the country as well as outside the countries universally, and how it is affected to our day-to-day life. Therefore, I would like to important to note here freedom relating to when it comes to the print media as well as the electronic media. So to me, the social media and access to internet and the distribution and obtaining information are really important, very important to many countries, because the information can spread it within half of the second. So therefore, it should be, we have to make sure that even that it is difficult to come with the new the laws. Sri Lanka, we don't have the laws to regulate the social media. So then, unlike the many other developed countries, so then one hand, it is abused. On the other hand, the rights of the people are being, restricted. So therefore, in Sri Lanka, when it comes to the social media situation through the media freedom context, it is not, we don't have a very healthier situation. So every day you can see that how the both sides, how that it is, really, creating some issues. They are finally, we are the affected people. So therefore, I'm not going to, I have mentioned a lot of the situations, the instances, but I would like to share my document with you if you like only. So when it comes to conclude my the speech, so I have exceeded the given time. So media is very important thing. Without media, I think that, we are unable to survive today. So because, the world has been developed into that, the globalization and the economic liberalization, all that the push the people to relate to, connect to media. So then how that the media personnel should play their role, even that, without law, I think that, they should take the steps, right, to, without abusing what they are, the information, to give the real, the truth, the real information and the correct data. So then it is not amount to hate speech, misinformation, misrepresentation, and distributed in, in a different manner to, confuse and to collapse the social, the society of a country, as well as the day-to-day, the routine of the general public. Therefore, I conclude that the media freedom and the changing media, the law, and to look at the different dimension, take the media freedom. So the three things should be very much important. Number one, freedom to provide right information, true information, correct information. If that person who are dealing with that, they are unable to have self-owned code of ethics, then the guidelines should be established by the government, because to protect all the people who are receiving that. Number two, freedom to receive right to information. You and I, everyone, we have the right to receive the right information. No one can mislead any of the people. That is, in some countries, it's a criminal law violation. The other countries, it's, tort law. We should not do that. So the second aspect is that if there is no any regulatory provisions, then I suggest that, yes, the guidelines are the most. Number three, the protection of the rights of the information providers and the receivers. There you have to look at the rights, means the fundamental rights as well as the human rights of the service providers, maybe the government and the private sector, especially the commercial sector, and the receivers like you and I, the general public. If we can maintain a very robust relationship through either kind of guidelines or some regulatory provisions and the mechanisms, which can really have that the interconnection and interrelated. So look into each other's rights and the check, the duties and the responsibilities and the checks and balances of these three angle, the three corners. I think that we can hear, we can see, and we can, engage in the very correct information, and we can see the media, the freedom. And this is what I want to share with you at today's conference. So I bless you and I wish you all the best. And I think that you know more than what I shared with you, and the other speakers who are in the queue, the lineup, they will share that with you. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for your valuable words. Now we have Professor Dr. Bishwadit Das, Professor and Founding Director of Center for Culture, Media and Governance, Jamia Millia Islamia, New Delhi. Professor Das is also the founding president of All India Communication and Media Association in India and has received the Best Media Educator Award in 2018 by Exchange for Media. It is truly an honor to have him with us today for the special address. So please.
Thank you. Thank you very much for inviting me to be here, especially for this particular international seminar on media law, which is very close to my heart. As you mentioned about the title of the center, I'm a trained sociologist specializing on media. And then I sort of tried to establish an interdisciplinary center. It's called Culture, Media and Governance, offering a master's on media governance. Now you can imagine when I talked about governance, it also talks about law, policy, regulation. And these are the kind of papers which are being taught in my center. So we are quite well informed about what are the recent debates in the field, as well as going back to the past, to the history, to the policies, and the legal entities, and so on. I had a series of esteemed speakers before me who actually spoke about varieties of issues, highlighting important issues, also mentioning issues, but I find more of them from a legal point of view, I think probably the understanding of media itself still needs little further proving as the way the media developments are taking place. I think this is where, even when I talk about, we organized, why I said it is at my heart, because in the center, we organize a series of activities where there is a sort of interactions between media schools and law schools. Year back in 2011 and 12, which I organized in Bangalore and National Law School, subsequently in the public policy schools. Also the kind of various, if you can see, I think this is a better way. This is called Teaching Media Policy and Law, the kind of documents which we brought out where they're talking about what are the problems of studying case laws and the doctrinal ways of putting, even the massive change, sea change taking place in media, how much the law scholars are informed about the debates and recent developments in the media field. I think that may be one of the inadequacy of approaching, understanding within media law. I think that's what my submission is. I think invariably when we talk about media and democracy and so on, we have a very understanding with a very, very antiquated notions of polity. We immediately jump to fourth estate and so on. We need to seriously question, can we really apply in Indian context? I would submit by saying that there are democracies within democracy. Let's not talk about a universalization of democracy back in England, what we saw, and then we sort of try to interpret in Indian context. I think that is a very flawed notions of, I mean, Pakistan is also a democratic country. India is also a democratic country. America is, of course, then, of course, England. And there are so many. Then the question arises that how do we engage with the idea of democracies? Then the laws which were introduced. I mean, these are, of course, very liberal notions of laws implemented in an illiberal context, in an illiberal situations. I think it opens up varieties of issues. I mean, scholars, when in US itself, have already given a toss to this whole understanding of media itself by saying about media's relationship with democracy. In fact, some of the important scholars like Sutson writes, does journalist ever love a democracy? I don't think, he says, I don't think no journalist would like a democracy at all, because democracy in that sense is kind of sort of trying to control and regulate a journalist to come out with any freedom of ideas and notions. In that sense, I would say that the very notions of democracy, what we are referring, it actually came up in a context of 17th century England, where the idea of relationship between news and democracy brewed and matured. Subsequently, it went in 18th century to US, where it was packaged, and then finally exported all over the world, all over the world. So we are actually we are in the receiving end in different parts of the world, importing those ideas of media and democracy relations. I mean, it reminds me in my undergrad days, in my political science teacher, who was teaching political science and always talked about British constitution, and where he talked about in early 70s, when Prime Minister Attlee, who was a Labour leader, Prime Minister, and is a famous economist who subsequently went to Dalton. Dalton was an economist who wrote on money and finance, who was actually the finance minister. And the journalist goes to interview Dalton and asks, is there any taxation on cigarette? And Dalton says that, well, you will know it in the Evening Star. The journalist comes back, then meets Dalton while going for a stroll in the seesaw and offers him a cigarette. Dalton lights the cigarette with a very faint smile. The journalist packs up and goes. Now, when Dalton is going to present the budget, and there was an uproar from the opposition, the taxation on cigarette. So what I'm trying to say is that we have been talking about, my former colleagues had talked about informing citizenry. So see, the context is we are talking about the media has to inform, educate people. And already we are seeing another experience where people are informed. So there is an informed citizenry. Where we are passive, we have to be informed. So this is the context you need to look at in terms of democracies. So this is why I submitted by saying an antiquated notions of polity. Much has happened in the field of media, but we take it for granted media to remain as it is, but where we can politically transform. Look at India, 70, 80 decades, and look at the way the strands of democracies which is changing. And now you insist that media should behave like this. Media should, because you're talking about a welfareist notions, where you talk about media as a public good, but you are forgetting that now we have reached, since 90s, media as a marketplace of ideas. Media is a marketplace of ideas. Yeah, I mean, you can buy, pick up, and whatever we are saying, that we had a whole series of transformations in the last 25, 30 years in terms of the way the merger, takeover, even giving foreign companies to come to India, even the whole judiciary, even on the weekends and the whole night discussions whether to give a rights to Star TV or not. This has been very well captured in India. I think that also needs to be now very much sensitized. In fact, what I see is that, the law, what we see that most of our conversations and discussions here on law is actually about content. content. We feel very comforted when we have this content. We have studied case laws. We report from one to the other, from what you call Thapa during emergency, what you call the Romesh Thapa, the Sakal papers. So we find very comforted within a classroom space to understand and analyze and discuss about all these papers. In a very doctrinal, that's what I said about West. I think we need to move beyond and see the way every day on the streets, the way things are happening about the legal issues, which also, I mean, even media itself is also moving from what you call a monopoly to a duopoly to an oligopoly. And now we are reaching towards what we call an oligosony model, like what you see the Netflix model. It's a Netflix model. I mean, if I see a movie, then Netflix will suggest me 10 movies that you can see this, because they immediately profile you. They profile you. They know your choice, whether it is even in the internet or in the mobile. What you see, much has happened. Now, if you look at media, media is, I mean, every time we are trying to control media, that is where we are talking about regulation. I mean, I remember when we started a course on media governance, everybody was looking at me and asking me, so you want to regulate journalists? I said, what do you mean by regulation? And today you look at the world within the last 20 years, regulation has been a part of the course curriculum. It's how to regulate media. So this is where you have a competition commission, which has come up. So the question is, regulation is not controlling. Regulation is a way. Now you look at today, we talk about self-regulation. We talk about co-regulation, then co-regulation. So, the whole debates have gone up in a very, very, I mean, it has gone in a very diverse way. So what we did, we talked about public. So one is about democracy. Now, there is also a sense of understanding about why media and why law, because you see, like law as an institution, media too as an institution, as an organization. Now, you need to understand the organizational dynamics and whether it functions as an institution. Everybody talked about corporatization. We have, Center has produced one is that you can see the media diversity index. We sort of try to do it in India. Like in India, across the state-wise, we sort of try to do, and it's basically kind of a risk possibilities, which states have more risks. Of course, it captures also the death of journalists and so on. Now, this is what we sort of try to contribute. The other one, I'm saying that media has shifted. No more it is a conduit between state and civil society. It's indeed an actor like any other actor. I think that is another perspective. That is another perspective to engage, that media has now come up as an actor. I think we are coming out with a book. It's called News and Public Policy, going back to the issues of reservation and OBC. Now, even in Mandal Commission, if you look at the whole trajectories, how the so-called the metro, I will not call it a national, metro media sort of trying to fuel this whole tension of Mandal Commission agitation, whereas the regional media are supporting it. So you find the controversies which is erupting, that media wants that people should be burnt and buses should be burnt, and how, so that you make it an event. So I'm saying that media is also moving away. Within media, the strands, because we had colleagues who talked about now media freedom, media justice, media rights, even media democracy. These are interesting strands which are moving within media itself. So what I would like to say, that our understanding also needs, we have seen Butler House incident, we have seen Nirbhaya Kand. We have done a study, which these are all in SSRC. You can download these from the websites. One is on Nirbhaya case, one is on media monitoring corruptions. These are all Social Science Research Council, Daniel Drash. You can just download these materials. And Nirbhaya Kand, we cover. We said that media covers. Now, what does it cover? What does it cover? How does it cover? So that is another area to look at. So we have seen that simply reporting doesn't make any sense at all. I mean, this is where we say what one of my Cambridge sociologist John Thompson talks about: selling scandal, selling scandal. I think there is a shift in selling scandals. In fact, earlier when there was a scandal, people hardly used to know, because they used to read in newspaper. It did not create much euphoria and so on. But the moment television started, how it started selling scandals. And more you have to continue with the reporting. And if you see, analyze from the first report to the second to the third to the fourth, you will see what is the variations in these reporting or reportage. You will not find much difference, except that just to make a kind of a media activism, it is just trying to make the issue alive and kicking. And that is where it sort of gives a small box. If you see from the front page and where it goes within a month to the trajectory of movement of that particular incident, you can see that ultimately it ends somewhere with theft or burglary and some other issues, a small cue box, because it cannot be given importance at all. So we have sort of tried to cover looking at the reportage matter the way it covers. In fact, this is what we were supporting. We are sorry, not supporting. We were assisting Justice Burma when this whole Nirbhaya Kand occurred, and we sort of tried to analyze. And we said that where our media lacks, our media lacks in making an advocacy strands of journalism. In fact, some of my former colleagues were talking about bringing Gandhi's notion of Harijan and Young India. They were saying, but we must understand. There was a question which was asked the other day to me about Gandhi. If Gandhi would have been alive, where he would have been probably as journalist. In fact, Gandhi, I mean, my book on Gandhi communication and thought, which is there, you can see that I'm talking about Gandhi was actually, when he was writing, most of his writings are very uh, it's with a full advocacy strands. Gandhi sort of trying to talk about in South Africa, talking about Indian labor conditions, and it's a total advocacy strands. And a newspaper, because most of you should not forget that a newspaper which existed prior to 47, that was never registered under a Company Act. That was never registered under the Company Act. So, like everybody had 2, 3 newspapers. One, like all freedom fight, the protagonists or the champions, the votaries of freedom struggle, all of them had both Hindi, Marathi, Bengali, Tamil, Telugu, and English. So that, they were sort of, it was like registered under Society Registration Act. But 47, it's a remarkable jump where you find there was a corporatizations coming up, company acts coming up. So that people probably have not, in media scholarship, I'm yet to see that there are scholars who are really engaged. They only say that what happened, why there were so many newspapers prior to independence, what happened to those newspapers after 47. I think people forget that how the Company Act which came and what does it have implications on newspapers. Of course, now we have more newspapers. What we say that India is more moving towards a quote-unquote in culture when the world is more net savvy and so on, because for centuries there was an oppression of people to read and write. And that's why we see that we now love to read and write. In fact, we can't now read without a cup of coffee or a tea. So that is how we have developed the habits. So this is where I just would like to say that there is a much shift today, even because I'm teaching, I'm writing, working on political communications. I'm seeing that whole traditional notions of a conduit to an actor also has affected severely today, that today, in fact, politicians no more trust media at all. Politicians do not trust media at all. Probably this was a conventional understanding that politicians depended on media, and media, also journalists, depended on politicians. And that's why if you see a newspaper, whether a politician is unwell or having fever or sneezing, that will be the news story. Not about what the journalist thinks about the larger incidents. So this is all driven through the patronage, because they get money, funded by money. In fact, it reminds me when Pranab Mukherjee was finance minister, and most of these newspapers, they run on a loss, and they're totally dependent on advertisements from the public sector, because otherwise you can't survive. And that is how the control takes place on the newspapers. They wanted the finance ministry or the government to bail them out. And Pranab Mukherjee said, okay, you submit your balance sheets. You'll be shocked to know that most of these media organizations, they could not even submit their balance sheets. They could not submit their balance sheets except one or two newspapers which submitted, which is also well recorded, And that is where also reflects on the organization. What kind of organizations are we talking about? So much work has to be done in the field of media scholarship to understand, gravitate the issues and the situations within the media. And then probably we would sort of try to talk about larger issues. We have just moved away from a monopoly. There was a public, community, which dictated the terms. And some of my colleagues were talking about media. You see, media, when you define media, you see that, somebody talked about Ahsoka and others edicts. In fact, the best way to understand is about Harold Innis, who talks about media. He talks about heavy media and light media. Now, heavy media and light media. Heavy media means stones, where the epigraphs and edicts which you see, and that stone is confined to the territoriality. I think the study moves to the Egyptian societies, where you see the mummies, where even the epigraphs and edicts are written, because you can't lift those stones. So that is one media. You just write it down, the inscriptions on the media. That is one way of doing it. But this particular work also says that how papyrus moved from what you call the Middle East to China, and subsequently it went to Europe. So what you see, the paper. So that is where from the papyrus it moved to the paper. That is a light media. So when you talk about freedom of expression and control, initially it was on the newspaper. Most of our freedom of expression, debates and discussions, it starts with controlling newspaper. We have seen D.H. Lawrence, the Priest of Love, and there are so many books, and even Bibles, or even when you see it, what in social science there is a saying that about imagined communities. So people started reading elsewhere and sort of try to imagine. You can't stop it anymore. And that is where electronic media came up. And there is no control on electronic media, what earlier it used to be on the print itself. Now that is where I'm saying a shift takes place on understanding from the content to the carriage. Now we are talking about platforms. We are now talking about platforms. And this is where you find there is a platformization of economy. So there is a tremendous potential of media law to engage and understand the broader dynamics, probably that first of all, we need to have map the field, and that what are the changes taking place within media, and how the legal sanctity and how we can move from public law to criminal to tort to varieties of issues where we sort of try to put it, and what kind of legislations and discussions. In fact, whole digitization itself, like my former esteemed panelist from Sri Lanka was talking about service provider. We had digitization. If you know very well the sense and meaning of living in a world era of digitization. Now, what is a citizen's rights? What is a consumer rights? How many people know that you are having a digital, now we live in a world of digital television? Then what does it imply? What does it sort of try to, in what way it sort of tries to come out with implications? We did in Center on studying on digitization, and also having different, what to call MSOs and CSOs. Like we prepare documents for TRI, where we sort of try to engage a kind of a civil society engagement, because TRI and all these institutions are basically market-based institutions. They promote market, and people's voices are missing completely in all these contexts. And that is where academia institutions are most important, that where you nurture debates and bring different stakeholders together and sort of try to cast a kind of debates and insist that what are the rights and discussions. In fact, there are so many issues I would like to sum up within 1 or 2 minutes because we have extended time. There are scholars have been studying well. In fact, in US today, there are more media civil society organizations. In fact, just to give you an idea, that all of you know about this controversy regarding TAM. I don't know whether you know about TAM. TAM is actually a kind of a organization which does what you call sort of try to study on television channels coverage and sort of tries to cover a TAM. It gives a ranking. So which channel is doing well, how it is selling products and so on. On the basis of the TAM reports, channels basically, or or the industrialists or the capitalists would go and sort of try to invest in a particular channel because they said that you please advertise my product. So TAM reports. Now, this TAM was a very notorious organization. They have their own methodology. They have their own way of monitoring people's viewing patterns, viewing habits, and so on. TAM came because TAM was more successful because TAM came from a traditional conservative method that was a diary method, which was earlier. And people were comforted because we are not much bothered about whosoever gives, but TAM is a more competitive. Now, TAM also did on Rupert Murdoch's Fox TV in US. Now TAM did, and sort of TAM also came out with a negative reporting of Fox. In order to counter TAM, Rupert Murdoch funded few media organizations to counter TAM itself. So that going on in the Washington Supreme Court. The same thing happened in India as well, because you can't sue TAM in India. That is what is happening in post-90s. The jurisdictions have changed. The territoriality has changed. Now, when we talk about media, we are talking about even it moves in a transnational context. So this is where you need to get into an international court of justice or even the company's initial registration. So that is where now fighting. So Prannoy Roy, NDTV had to go to Washington to fight and sue a case against TAM there. So I'm saying, look, open your ideas, think about the way things are happening in the world in media. The future would be more and more media war, and there will be more problems with litigations and media related issues. So which will come up. It has not yet picked up or prioritized, but tomorrow, future media law has a tremendous potential. And I'm really glad that your institution has given very serious thought about it, even the advanced studies. And I'm sure in future they should more and more promote such kind of activities and research and map the field. And this will be a tremendous that people should come forward tomorrow. And there will be more and more engagement of students everywhere. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir, for your words of wisdom. We have with us Sri B. Srijan, Associate Editor, The New Indian Express, to felicitate the gathering. Sir, please.
Good afternoon, everyone. So actually it is running very late. So I think we were supposed to close it by 11 o'clock and it's already 12:15. I have pushed another meeting. Defamation law. I myself, like any other practicing journalist, is a victim of criminal defamation law, IPC 499. So I have faced trial in a case, and on another second case, I approached the High Court and got discharged. So being subject to it full trial, like any petty criminal or any murderer or any rapist, it is actually a very, very traumatic experience for me. In my case, in the case in which I had to undergo the trial, I myself had to go to the court, I think at least 12 or 13 times, despite securing a bail. And once my lawyer ditched me and the bail got cancelled, it became warrant and the police came to nab me. So all this experience I had. So there is no point in having a criminal defamation law in India. There were efforts in 2003 by the Hindu to challenge the law. That was not granted. some 2-3 years ago, we all know Arvind Kejriwal and Rahul Gandhi approached the Supreme Court against the criminal defamation law. It was not granted. So it is high time that we build up a campaign against the criminal defamation law. Let there be a civil law that is enough for us. So secondly, there is no proper, the self-regulation is the only way to regulate media. So what we have is 1978 Press Council of India Act. So in 2012, Press Council itself have mooted a proposal to bring electronic and social media under its jurisdiction. There is a draft law act also. I think it was drafted in the same year, Press and Electronic Media Regulation Act. So that act was not discussed in the parliament yet. So what if we are serious again about regulating the media in India? The only thing we have to do is to give more teeth to the Press Council of India, bring all media under one umbrella, and have a strong condition, so strong self-regulatory commission. Courts and government are not the one to regulate media. There should be a more neutral mechanism where stakeholders of the industry are also part of it. So this is not the Indian experience alone. In Britain also. So you may all Lord Brian Levison Commission that was constituted after the Murdoch scandal and all. So the Levison Commission's recommendation was to strengthen the Press Complaint Commission there by including more experts and giving more powers. So this is the global democracy. This is what global democracies also do. So these are the points I wish to narrate here, and let me sum up by saying this. So in other sessions that follow us, you can all debate on these points. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir. Gratitude is the fairest blossom which springs from the soul. Every celebration is an experience as the external fades away and the internal lingers and echoes in the most depths of our heart. We are reminded that events like this one are milestones on the journey of life. Now, it's my pleasure to invite Advocate Darshana S. Thampi, Assistant Professor, Kerala Law Academy Law College, to propose the vote of thanks. Ma'am, please.
Thank you, Tulika. A warm good afternoon to our most valued and worthy guests, respected teachers, beloved friends, participants, and my dear students. It's a matter of pride and privilege to deliver the vote of thanks for the inaugural session of the 12th International Seminar on Changing Dimensions of Media Law, hosted by Kerala Law Academy in association with Center for Advanced Legal Studies and Research and IQAC KLA. The Kerala Law Academy, established in the year 1966, is a seat of excellence in legal education, consultancy, research, and pioneering law reforms. Media is often referred to as a fourth estate of democracy, entrusting it with great responsibility and power. This seminar will attempt to explore the different aspects of media law as it plays a crucial role in our society. This aims to provide a brilliant platform for reflecting upon some of the essential concepts of this unique subject. The purpose of the seminar is to serve as a medium that enlightens the outcome, unsolved questions, and further explore new directions in the field of media law. I take the privilege to thank Professor Dr. S. Suryaprakash, Vice Chancellor of Damodaram Sanjeevayya National Law University, Visakhapatnam. Sir has been serving as Vice Chancellor of Damodaram Sanjeevayya National Law University, Visakhapatnam since December 2018. Prior to this, he also served as Vice Chancellor of Maharashtra National Law University, Aurangabad, and Professor of Law at National Law Institute University, Bhopal. Sir has more than 25 years experience in academics. I express my sincere gratitude to you, sir, for your esteemed presence on this occasion. I also extend my gratitude to Dr. N.K. Jayagumar, sir, former Vice Chancellor, NUALS, Kochi, and Member Executive Committee, Kerala Law Academy. Sir is an eminent jurist and academician who took his LLB, LLM, and PhD from Kerala Law Academy Law College. He was Professor, Head and Dean, Faculty of Law of University of Kerala, and had served as the Secretary, Kerala Legislative Assembly. I take the privilege to thank Dr. N.K. Jayakumar sir for gracing this occasion. I express my immense gratitude towards Professor Jeeva Nirilya, Faculty of Law, University of Colombo. Ma'am started her career as an academic at the Faculty of Law, University of Colombo in 1993. Since then, she held several administrative positions at university level, including the head of the department. In the last 15 years, as an academic in the fields of law and criminal justice, she has also published books with reputed publishers such as LexisNexis India, book chapters, research articles published with internationally reputed publishers such as Springer, Routledge, Taylor, and Francis. I express my deep gratitude to you, ma'am, for your esteemed presence. I would also like to thank Professor Dr. Biswajit Dasar, Professor and Founding Director of Center of Culture and Media and Governance, Jamia Millia Islamia, New Delhi. He was previously Associate Professor at the Department of Sociology, Jamia Millia Islamia, New Delhi. He has almost 3 decades of teaching and research experiences in the field of theory, method, and history of communication in India. Besides his teaching and research career, Sir has been involved with various civil society initiatives in the country in a media advocacy program and development communication projects. Thank you so much, sir, for joining us on this session today. I also would like to thank Sri B. Srijan, sir, Associate Editor, The New Indian Express. Sir has over 22 years experience covering Kerala as an investigative reporter, political reporter, and development journalist. I take the privilege to thank you, sir, for joining this session. I extend my heartfelt gratitude to the late Dr.N.Narayanan sir, founder Kerala Law Academy, who remains as a constant inspiration for us for all our events. With immense respect, I would like to extend my vote of thanks to Advocate Nagaraj Narayan sir, Director, Kerala Law Academy, and member, Bar Council of Kerala. On behalf of entire team, I extend my profound gratitude to him. I also express my special thanks to Professor Anil Kumar K. Sir, Director, Administration, Student and Faculty Affairs, Kerala Law Academy, who is a constant support and who is a constant source of support and motivation. On behalf of Kerala Law Academy Law College, I extend my respect and vote of thanks to all the resource persons for imparting their timeless wisdom and making this seminar incredibly informative and enlightening. An event like this cannot happen overnight. The wheels start rolling weeks ago. It requires planning and bird's eye for details. We have been fortunate enough to be backed by a team of our very proactive and dedicated staff of our institution who are well versed in their job. I would also like to extend my gratitude to our seminar committee members, student conveners, IT team, and to all co-conveners, Dr. Dakshina Saraswati ma'am, General Secretary Moot Court Society, Srimati Prajita PG ma'am, Assistant Professor Kerala Law Academy, Sri Sachin sir, Assistant Professor KLA, and moderators for their tireless efforts for the success of this seminar. And finally, I express my regards to the participants of this seminar from different parts of the country for making this event a grand success. Your tireless participation and work has helped this event reach the epitome of success. I conclude my words by extending my heartfelt gratitude to all of you once again. Thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for expressing your heartfelt gratitude for this inaugural session. With that, we have come to an end of our inaugural session. On behalf of our institution, I would like to thank all the dignitaries for joining us and enlightening us with their valuable words.
I would also like to extend my heartfelt thanks to all of you for your kind cooperation and patience. This is Tulika Suresh and Arpita Prasoon signing off. Have a great day ahead. Thank you.